The beggar just wanted company, but he got a hero. Doggy had nothing, no house, no family, no name that anyone on the street bothered to learn. Every morning, he woke up on the same cold concrete sidewalk in the center of a noisy city, watching thousands of people walk past him without a single glance. For most of those people, he was invisible, just another shadow they had grown used to stepping around. But one rainy Thursday evening, everything changed. Not because someone finally stopped to give him money, not because a kind stranger offered him a hot meal. It changed because of a dog, a skinny, shivering, mud-covered dog who limped out of an alley and sat down next to him as if he had always belonged there. What happened next is the kind of story the world desperately needs right now. A story that proves beyond any doubt that love doesn't need a home address, that heroes don't need capes, and that sometimes the most important friendship of your life comes on four legs, soaking wet, and asking for nothing more than your warmth. He just wanted someone to sit with him. What he got was someone who would die for him. A man the world had forgotten his name was Thomas, 53 years old, former factory worker. He had lived on the streets of downtown Atlanta for nearly 4 years, ever since the plant where he worked for 2 decades. Shut down without warning, taking with it his income, his insurance, and slowly his sense of self. I didn't fall apart all at once. Thomas would later tell a local journalist, it was piece by piece. First, the job. Then, the apartment. Then my brother stopped calling. Then I just stopped expecting anything from anyone. He was not an unusual case. Across the United States alone, more than 580,000 people experience homelessness on any given night. Most of them are not lazy. Most of them are not dangerous. Most of them are people like Thomas, ordinary human beings, caught in extraordinary bad luck, crushed under the weight of a system that rarely offers second chances. Thomas had learned to survive. He knew which shelters had beds on cold nights, which soup kitchens were open on Sundays, which parks were safer than others. He had learned the language of invisibility, how to take up as little space as possible, how not to attract the wrong kind of attention, how to keep his head down. But survival, he would tell you, is not the same as living. And what Thomas missed most, more than a bed, more than a hot shower, more than a steady paycheck, was simple human connection. Someone to talk to. Someone who knew he existed. The night the dog appeared, it was a Thursday in late November. The temperature had dropped sharply after sunset, and a cold rain had been falling since midday. Thomas had found a semi-sheltered spot in the doorway of a closed hardware store on Peachtree Street, pulled his thin jacket tighter, and settled in for another long, lonely night. He heard the sound before he saw it, a soft, uneven clicking of claws on wet pavement. Then a shape emerged from the alley across the street, small, brown, limping badly on its left front leg. A dog. Mixed breed, probably part terrier, part something else entirely. It was thin enough that its ribs were visible even under its matted fur. The dog crossed the street slowly, cautiously, stopping twice to sniff the air. Then it walked directly to Thomas, looked up at him with enormous amber eyes, and sat down. I remember thinking, well, at least someone wants to be here, Thomas said. I didn't have any food to give him. I didn't have much of anything, but I moved over a little, and he crawled right up next to me, and I put my jacket over both of us. Thomas named him Duke. He had no idea where the name came from, it just seemed to suit him. Regal, despite everything, dignified, despite the mud and the rain and the limp. That night, for the first time in years, Thomas did not feel entirely alone. Duke did not save Thomas because he was trained to. He did it because that is what love does. It steps in front of danger without being asked. What love looks like at its most honest over the following weeks. Thomas and Duke became inseparable. Duke's leg healed on its own, a sprain. It turned out not a break. He grew stronger. His ribs became less prominent. Thomas found a way to get him food every day, often going without his own meal to make sure Duke was fed first. And something remarkable happened to Thomas as well. People who had walked past him for years began to stop. Not because of him at first, but because of Duke. "Is that your dog?" they would ask, smiling, already reaching out a hand. "What's his name?" Duke became a bridge between Thomas and the rest of humanity. The very thing that invisibility had stolen: human contact. Acknowledgement. The simple warmth of being seen came flooding back through a small brown dog with amber eyes and a wagging tail. "He gave me back my voice," Thomas said. "People started talking to me, and I realized I still had things to say." A woman named Carol, who ran a small bakery 2 blocks away, began leaving a paper bag outside her door every morning. A sandwich for Thomas, a small piece of bread for Duke. A retired schoolteacher named Mr. Obi started stopping on his morning walks to talk with Thomas about baseball, politics, books, anything and everything. A group of college students began bringing blankets and warm socks on Friday evenings. Thomas had not changed. The city had not changed. But Duke had changed the conversation. In the quiet corners of our bustling cities, stories of incredible courage often go unnoticed. Today, we're sharing one such story. A tale that reminds us of the profound goodness that exists in the most unexpected places. This is the story of Thomas and his best friend, a loyal dog named Duke. For Thomas, life on the streets was a daily struggle. Every sunrise brought the same knowing uncertainty: where to find the next meal, a safe place to rest, a moment of peace. His only constant, his only family, was Duke. Duke wasn't just a pet. He was a lifeline, a warm presence on cold nights, and a furry shoulder to lean on. Together, they navigated a world that often looked away, finding solace in their unbreakable bond. They shared every scrap of food, every ounce of warmth, and every moment of their challenging existence. One sunny afternoon, Thomas and Duke were resting near a park, a small patch of green amidst the concrete jungle. Children's laughter filled the air, a sound that was both joyful and a world away from Thomas's reality. Suddenly, Duke started barking frantically, pulling at the frayed rope that served as his leash. His barks weren't his usual playful yaps. They were sharp, urgent, and filled with alarm. Thomas, initially annoyed, followed Duke's frantic gaze towards the park's pond. And then he saw it. A small pink jacket bobbing in the water. A toddler had wandered away from her family and fallen in panic surged through Thomas. Without a second thought, he scrambled to his feet. But Duke was faster. The loyal dog broke free and plunged into the cold water, paddling with all his might towards the struggling child. Time seemed to stop as Duke reached the toddler, nudging her head above the water and pushing her towards the edge. By the time the child's frantic mother and other parkgoers arrived, Duke had guided the little girl to the shallow end, where Thomas was waiting to lift her out of the water and into her mother's arms. The relief was overwhelming. Tears of gratitude streamed down the mother's face as she hugged her child, then turned to Thomas and the dripping, heroic dog beside him. In that moment, Thomas wasn't invisible anymore. He wasn't just a homeless man. He was a hero, and so was his incredible dog. The story of their bravery spread like wildfire. News crews arrived, and soon the entire community knew about the homeless man and his dog who saved a life. The response was astonishing. A local news channel shared their story, and a fundraising page was set up. Donations poured in, not just money, but offers of food, clothing, veterinary care for Duke, and even job opportunities for Thomas. People who had once walked past him without a glance now stopped to shake his hand, to thank him, to offer a kind word. A local animal shelter provided Duke with a full checkup, a warm bed, and a lifetime supply of his favorite treats. A kind-hearted business owner, moved by Thomas's selflessness, offered him a stable job and helped him find a small apartment. For the first time in years, Thomas had a roof over his head, a key in his pocket, and a steady income. He had a home. The transformation was more than just physical. The kindness of the community healed wounds that went deeper than hunger or cold. It restored Thomas's faith in humanity and gave him a sense of belonging. He thought he'd be lost forever. He proved to be a dedicated employee, and with Duke by his side, he started to rebuild his life one day at a time. He never forgot the hardship. But now, he also never forgot the overwhelming power of compassion. This story isn't just about a dramatic rescue. It's a powerful reminder that heroes don't wear capes. They can be found in the most humble of circumstances, and their companions often have 4 legs and a tail. It is a testament to the idea that a single act of kindness can create ripples of change, transforming lives and uplifting an entire community. Thomas and Duca's story challenges us to see beyond labels and to recognize the humanity in everyone. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that inspires. There is a reason dogs have walked beside human beings for more than 15,000 years. Long before language, long before cities, long before the complicated machinery of modern life, dogs and people found each other in the dark and decided to stay. Dogs do not see status. They do not see a job title or a bank account or an address. They see warmth. They see a heartbeat. They see someone who might need them, and they go. Duke did not save Emma because he had been trained as a rescue dog. He had no training at all. He was a stray, as homeless as Thomas, as forgotten by the world. He saved her because he was present, because his instincts had never been dulled by the cynicism that too often dulls ours, because he did not stop to calculate whether it was worth it. And in the same way, Duke did not choose Thomas because Thomas had anything to offer. He chose him because Thomas was there, and Thomas was cold, and being beside him was the only thing that made sense. We could learn something from that. We spend so much of our lives carefully choosing who deserves our attention, our resources, our compassion. We build elaborate systems of deserving and not deserving, visible and invisible, worth helping and not worth helping. Duke never got that memo, and because he didn't, a little girl is safe. A man got his life back, and a city, for one brief and luminous moment, remembered how to see someone. The ones still out, Der Thomas's story ended well. But it is important, it is essential, to sit with the knowledge that most stories like his do not end this way. Most of them end quietly, on a sidewalk somewhere, in a city where no one stops. Right now, tonight, there are hundreds of thousands of people in the United States alone who are sleeping outside. Many of them are veterans. Many are survivors of domestic violence. Many are people who lost everything in a medical crisis and never found their way back. Many are young people who aged out of the foster system and had nowhere to go. And many of them have dogs. Because when everyone else has left, a dog stays. When every door is closed, a dog doesn't need a door. The bond between homeless individuals and their animals is one of the most powerful, most studied, and most consistently underserved relationships in the human-animal world. Studies show that companion animals reduce anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation among homeless individuals. They provide routine, physical warmth, and a reason to keep going. They are, for many people, the last remaining relationship that hasn't been broken by circumstance or shame. And yet, many shelters don't allow pets. Many programs require surrendering an animal as a condition of receiving services. For someone whose dog is the only family they have left, that is not an option. And so they stay outside, choosing their companion over a bed, because loyalty runs both ways. You are not powerless if Thomas's story has reached you. It is not an accident. Stories travel because they carry something we need. And what this story carries is simple. The reminder that compassion is not a resource that runs out. That seeing someone, truly seeing them, costs nothing and changes everything. You do not need to solve homelessness to make a difference. You do not need a platform or a fundraiser or a viral post. You need, sometimes, only the willingness to slow down, to make eye contact, to say someone's name. If you can do more, do more. Support organizations that provide services to homeless individuals and their pets. Donate to shelters that have pet-friendly policies. Volunteer at a soup kitchen. Advocate for housing first policies in your city. Share stories like this one because visibility matters. And silence is its own kind of harm. But start where you are. Start with the person on the corner you've been walking past for 3 months. Start with learning their name. Thomas and Duke are proof that one connection can change everything. Every share puts this story in front of someone who might need to see it. A donor, a volunteer, a neighbor who finally decides to stop and say hello. Share it on social media. Send it to someone you love. Look up your local homeless shelter or pet-friendly transitional housing. Because Duke didn't wait to be asked. Neither should we. Epilogue. Duke and Thomas. 1 year later, 1 year after Duke first appeared in the rain, Thomas stood in the break room of a small logistics company on the outskirts of Atlanta, pouring himself a cup of coffee before his shift. On his phone screensaver, a photo of Duke asleep in a sunbeam on a secondhand couch in their apartment, his red collar catching the light. Thomas still sees Mr. Obi on weekends. He still gets a wave from Carol when he passes the bakery. He and Sarah have become something like friends, the unlikely kind, built on an extraordinary moment neither of them will ever fully explain. Duke, for his part, has not changed at all. He still greets every stranger with the same open, unguarded curiosity. He still moves toward the cold and the lost with the same quiet certainty. He still, somehow, seems to know exactly where he is needed. I used to think I rescued him, Thomas said in a recent interview, smiling in a way that reached all the way to his eyes. But I know better now. He rescued me first. He paused, looking at the photo on his phone. He still does. Every single day.